Hi, and welcome to this week's devotion. I know I've shown you parts of our garden before, but I don't think I've shown you this part, or at least not for a while. When I was a kid, there was a kids' TV show that began by saying, "Look up, look way, way up." And that's kind of what we need to do right now, because you see how tall these sunflowers are behind me? They are massive. I measured them with a tape measure about 2 weeks ago, and at that time they were more than 10 feet tall. I think they're probably approaching 11 feet now, well over 3 meters. And I got to tip the camera way up so you can see how tall they are. They're just crazy, absolutely crazy. I love them. However, boy, are they ever having their struggles too. You can probably tell, how much they're leaning over. Well, the windstorms that we've had this summer have just done a number on them, and they just can't stand up straight anymore. There's too much sticking up above the ground for the wind to press on, and they just get pushed over a little more with each windstorm that we have. In addition to that, though, they're also struggling from some sort of disease. And you can see these leaves are not looking particularly good. Look at this one down here. It's just getting consumed by some sort of fungus, I think. I've tried to treat it a couple of times, but I haven't found anything that really does the job. And so they're struggling in that way. And the other thing is, we're just getting to the end of the season now, and they don't have much time left to finish putting out all these blossoms that they're trying so valiantly to do, and put the seeds in the heads that these plants really want to do. That's what they're for, and they're doing their best, but they're just having kind of a hard time with it. I want to walk you over to the other side of our yard, though, and show you another one of our sunflowers too. There's another little patch of them here, right here against the house. And you can see this one that's just coming into view right now is, what's the problem with that one? Well, my goodness, it's pretty much horizontal, isn't it? You see that? What happened was, it got blown over at a very early stage in the season, and I sort of just didn't stake it up the way I probably should have. I thought, well, we'll see what happens with that. And so you can see what's happening with that. It's valiantly carrying on. It's still producing all these flowers. The bees are still coming around, and it's doing its very best to produce a crop, even in spite of the fact that it's pretty much horizontal to the ground. Isn't that sad? I feel kind of embarrassed about that, but also very impressed with how well that plant is doing in spite of my negligence. And you know, this all just kind of gets me thinking about something that St. Paul talks about in his letter to the Philippians. I'll go over and stand in front of the other ones again while I tell you about this. We're studying Philippians on Wednesday nights now, and if any of you would like to join us 6:30 Wednesday nights, I can send you a link if you let me know you're interested, and we'll get you hooked up with our Zoom classroom. But anyway, in Philippians, Paul talks about some of the difficulties in his life, and he says, you know what, guys? He says, I know in whatever circumstance I find myself, I've learned what it is to be content. He says, I know what it is to be brought low. I know what it is to abound. He says, I've learned the secret in any and every circumstance of facing plenty and want, abundance and need. I can do all these things, Paul says, through him who gives me strength. Now, it's interesting. I've heard some Christians talk about that passage and say, oh yeah, I can do anything I want because of Christ's strength working within me. Well, no, that's not exactly what Paul is talking about there, is it? He's talking about the adverse circumstance that he faces in life. He says, I can deal with it when I've got a lot. I can deal with it when I don't have enough. I can deal with the windstorms that come. I can deal with the illnesses that come. I can deal with the shortness of my life and the shortness of my energy. I can do all these things through him who gives me strength. That's different than saying, I could jump off the roof of my house and survive. It's very different than saying, if I pray hard enough, I can just make sure that I become rich and famous. That's not at all what Paul's talking about. He's saying, I know where my strength comes from. The strength that I have to endure all the adverse things that come my way in life. To me, this is a very powerful thing to think about right at this time in our shared history. All of us are going through the same pandemic right now. All of us Edmontonians, all of us Albertans, all of us Canadians, all of us humans. It's everywhere. We're all facing it together. And we're all finding our way through it together. But here's the difference, and it's a critical difference. You and I as Christians know where our strength comes from. We know how it is that we're able to stand up against the pressures that are trying to push us over. We know how it is that we're managing to deal with the plagues in our life, plagues of sin, plagues of weakness, plagues of broken relationships, all of that stuff. We know where our strength comes from, not from ourselves. It's from Christ. That's where our strength really comes from. So, good for us to recognize our solidarity with all people everywhere. We are all in this together. But it's also such a blessing for you and me as Christians to know that this is what's really bringing us through, the Lord who is with us. St. Paul is a wonderful champion of that faith that we have, and I hope that maybe you'll feel inspired by this thought here today to spend some time reading his letter to the Philippians and any of the other things he wrote as well. I think you'll find them a great source of strength for you in all the things that confront you every day. God be with you. Till next time. Bye.